What's going on, college hoops heads? This is another edition of the One and Done Coaching Carousel edition. This is going to be on the Center Hub YouTube channel. I'm here with Conrad Pascual. My name is Stephen Bagell. We're here. Some sports podcasts get Taylor Swift. We don't have Taylor Swift. We have someone even better. Coach Russ Turner from UC Irvine. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, we appreciate you taking the time. So, this is an interview that not only do we want to post because we're both big fans, and at the Center Open General, we're big fans of Coach Turner, but we are releasing our college basketball publication. We're calling it a magazine, it's more of a PDF, but we're covering all 365 teams. We want to get the insight of not only just the Big West, but also, his Irvine team from Coach himself. Um, So, Coach, my first question is, what's your overall sentiment of the Big West? Then I'm going to shoot it over to Conrad. You've won the Big West regular season title 7 times in 15 years. You went to March Madness twice. Might have been a third time if 2020 wasn't canceled. Last year, as we know, 32 wins, but UC San Diego was also a juggernaut as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, just what's the overall sentiment you have of the Big West Conference coming into this year?
Well, I think it's really competitive again. It always is. I say that pretty much every year, it feels like every team can beat all the others. And what that means is there's a lot of pressure in our tournament, and it's hard to put together years of success in the tournament. We haven't been able to do that as much as we'd like to, although we've been right there knocking on the door a lot of times. Um, UC San Diego had an incredible season last year. I give credit to those guys. I think everybody in our league looks at that example and thinks it's possible for them. And we're no different. We also think that we have a great chance to advance to the NCAA tournament in the coming year with the team that we've got. But we know that's a long journey and that we're going to have to perform our best in March when the pressure's on.
So that actually prompted a follow up for me, Conrad. I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but
Look,
one more quick question. As we just said, 32 wins last year, and you end up unfortunately not going dancing. Does that sort of, in your opinion, favor expansion of the tournament, given, if it's going to give more mid majors that were very good but don't quite win the conference tournament an opportunity to go dancing?
Well, it's if if expansion of the tournament did give more opportunities for mid majors, then yes, I think we'd all be in favor of it. But it's not easily apparent to me that that's the purpose of the expansion.
Mhm.
And it's difficult to trust a process that's committee based, and that now is done by analytics that have been tilted so heavily in favor of the top conferences. And maybe the analytics aren't tilted, but the realities of scheduling and other things mean that it's virtually impossible for a school like us to have a better year than we did last year. Same with UC San Diego, and there's a good chance that neither one of us would have gotten an at-large bid last year. Now we can hold out hope that if we have those incredible seasons like we both did, that that's possible, but it's looking less and less likely that that's possible for a league like ours. And if there is expansion, I think that there should be expansion with some sort of guarantee that the top mid-major schools are given, special consideration for inclusion. I think that's what makes the NCAA tournament special, and that's what fans want. But that's my opinion.
I mean, kind of jumping off of that, I know a lot of like fans and media, bracketologists, as you said, there was a big belief that the Big West should have had, more than one team represented in the postseason tournament, especially as you said, given both your record, UC San Diego's record. Um, Moving forward, uh, as far as I know, I believe UC Irvine's non-conference schedule hasn't been officially released.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, if you can't speak on that yet, that's fine. But I'm just,
We can't
what
finish it.
is,
We're trying.
yeah, the mindset though going into finishing scheduling your non-conference portion of the season, like is it now kind of with the mindset of okay, what is it going to take, what is the level of competition that the committee would see as being on par, of like the high major teams where we do get more consideration? Or as you said, the Big West is getting increasingly competitive almost season by season. Like, do you think there's also maybe the possibility that the Big West as a whole, the conference, like your conference schedule alone, will be able to be deemed more worthy, or have more consideration in terms of postseason selection?
I mean, two-part question, I guess. I don't expect
Yeah.
that to happen with the Big West. I don't think that there's going to be this surge from all of the bottom teams in the Big West and consistent improvement from all those teams. I wish there would be that. I think the coaches can generate that if the institutions that they work for would invest more, but I don't envision that in this current climate, for the coming year or for the next coming years. And then back to your question about the schedule. Yeah, we schedule aggressively, but we're not going to be able to schedule um, games that will get us consideration for the NCAA tournament. I don't believe, given the way the industry is moving now. We're going to schedule as aggressively as we can. I think over 15 years here, I figured out that we have to do that in order to give ourselves a chance to have a seed in the NCAA tournament if we qualify that would allow us to advance. So if we can get a 13 seed or a 12 seed, then we're going to play in a first round game that we'll think we have a great chance to win. UC San Diego had that this year. Um, that's why you have to schedule aggressively, I think. And we've always done that. And, sometimes coaches don't feel, as secure in their positions that they can schedule aggressively. I don't look at it that way. I think that we've got to schedule aggressively to give ourselves a chance to make the big impact. And the big impact is winning a game in the NCAA tournament. We were lucky enough to do that one time in 2019.
Terrific.
So going off of that, it's funny you just sort of segued my next question, Coach, in terms of 2019. 2019 was the year you guys said Taco Fall, correct?
No, no. In 2015, we had Mamadou Jai.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and we played a game against Taco Fall. So it was 7-6
oh,
against
right.
seven
Taco Falls
six.
at UCF. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So
yeah, yeah.
it's but either way, you segue that question a little bit because when I don't know how big into like the analytics and metrics you are, Coach, but when you look at your Ken Palm page and like your program has sort of become historically known for the 2 point percentage defense, actually. Um, in terms of how poor your opponents shoot it through rim, really. Um, I'm not asking you to give up your whole game plan, but how do you always find a way to consistently put so much pressure on your opponents defensively?
Well, we probably are more into the analysis of analytics than most others like us. I think we're more of that. That's not a horn I've consistently tooted, but I do think our sustained success backs that up. We've been different in different ways with different teams, but as you mentioned, we do start pretty consistently with protecting the rim and being in position to rebound. That's a recruiting choice. That's a strategy choice. That's a set of a set of emphases that we make with our teams. And we've built different modes of doing that with how we play with each team, depending on the strengths of that team. So we've been consistent with that. That starts with having guys who can shot block, um, length and athleticism. We really recruit defensive talent. We think that often defensive talent is less valued in the recruiting market than offensive talent. And so there's been a strategy that's allowed the performance we've had consistently with our analytics to emerge. And we're still trying to tweak that. One year we were also the number one team in 3-point percentage defense. That was one year. Some of that, in my opinion, is luck based, but there's also parts of that that we can zero in on strategically and improve at. We've focused on those things too. You know, the offensive side of the game is more talent and art and feel based, I think. And often, if you're focused on the defensive side, it's less likely that you can be great on that end. The trick for us would be to do what UC San Diego did this past year, be great at both. I give them credit for that. They were an outstanding defensive team, but they also had a collection of guys with experience and talent on the offensive end that really allowed them to have a special season. We also, I thought, were really good offensively. We typically get better offensively as the season goes on.
I mean, it's funny that earlier you said, I mean, how like kind of the selection committee, sometimes it can be a little bit like, analytics based. And as Steven and as you're mentioning, like the analytics actually do favor your team quite a bit. I mean, last year, and even just from the eye test, like it's funny how the analytics back what I believed like we were seeing. I mean, your Anteaters finished the season eighth in defensive rating, eighth in all of Division One, right? You're the
That's pretty
third
good.
best, yeah, the third best defensive rebounding team, which again, as you were saying, right? Defense, rebounding, limit those possessions, right? Don't give opponents second chance opportunities. I mean, as you just said, it kind of goes back into your recruiting. But I mean, is this something that you kind of foresee being like the crux, like the foundation of this team's identity for this upcoming season? I mean, you have 9 returning players, but of the new players incoming, the same thing, right? Have they kind of been brought in with that same mentality? As you said, shot blocking, being able to maybe defend in space, especially like some of your new guard recruits.
Yeah, I mean, we recruit really honestly, almost to a fault, I think, sometimes in, trying to paint a picture for guys about how it'll be when they get here. They know that we're going to emphasize the defensive end, that we only want guys who want to be committed to the effort and energy and togetherness it takes on that side of the ball, and that they'll all get a lot better as defenders in their time here. So yeah, we do make that the basis of where we think we're going to be good. And there's good reason for that. Like when you look at a team like Houston or before Houston, Virginia, even high major teams that punch above their weight typically figure out ways to be outstanding on the defensive side of the ball. St. Mary's is a great example of that. They are consistently outstanding on defense, and they recruit to that. They understand how to do it. I think that we're on that path too. Um, what it means is that it's not as easy to sell what's most sometimes desirable to fan bases about offensive performance. And, a lot of the people who look at analytics closely focus more on the offensive side of it. That makes sense for media, for attention, for clicks. What we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out ways to win, to do
Right.
things that people maybe don't expect us to be able to do. So we just, focus on things a little bit differently than what sometimes gets most talked about.
I mean, it's definitely you've seen a lot of sustained success, right? I mean, like I think it's pretty fascinating. 15 you've been head coach for 15 years, right? Winning season in what 13 out of 15, the only two being your first 2 years on the job, right? Where
Yeah,
you're essentially building up your program.
I was trying to figure
Um,
it out. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, kind of a more of a kind of a macro question, I guess. I kind of wanted to ask you since we're talking about recruiting. Um, these last, even just like these last 5 years, last 10 years, the landscape of college sports and especially collegiate basketball, has changed so much between the transfer portal, NIL, everything. And as you, like I just said, right, like your program has consistently been on the winning side. It seems like you're adapting fairly successfully. Um, Steven and I were talking before we got on air. Steven's from Philadelphia. They have a rich legacy of Philadelphia prep hoops.
Yeah.
I'm from California, and even though I'm from the Bay Area, I'm very much aware of the legacy, like the reputation of the Los Angeles County, the Southern California prep scene. Um, do you believe that your roster still has a number of players from California, specifically from SoCal. Do you believe that your sustained success and you having been at the helm for these last 15 years has kind of helped in the recruiting process, specifically in the Los Angeles or Southern California regions?
Yeah, yeah. I think as a program now we've got a strong brand that's appealing to guys who want what we are, and that's a program that's affiliated with a world-class university that's likely to produce graduates and better men and play great basketball and have a good chance to win. We've been able to promote that and then back that up, and that's pretty good. It means a lot of really good players like what we are, and I do feel I feel great about that. You mentioned that we recruit heavily in California. When I got the job, we had to recruit more away from Southern California because the impression of our program around here wasn't strong. Now that's changed. Now the impression around here is that we are strong. So most kids around here that are really good players know that we're good also and have interest in us. It's on us to choose the right ones and to do a great job with those guys and to continue to specialize in development of players, to give guys opportunities to perform and then to help them move along if they perform at a really high level and they want to go somewhere else. We've done a great job of that, I think. And the part of that that's most important now is to have readiness within your roster. We carry a lot of guys on our team, but what that's meant is that when other players have succeeded and moved on, we've had someone ready to step into a larger role. I think that's the story of this year's team. I hope it will be anyway. We're a young team now compared to last year's having a really veteran team. The biggest change in the last 5 years in the industry was the COVID year. They gave a COVID year to all these guys. It really disrupted everything that had remained consistent for a long time, just about the number of years players were around. And then you combine that with the transfer portal and now NIL, and then there's this just enormous amount of disruption that we've all had to adapt to. I think that we've been able to find spots of solidity in that changing environment, and that's what we're continuing to try to do.
So, Connor, you have a follow-up?
Oh, just as you were saying, given that you're kind of been turning more towards the younger players on your program, is there any one player or maybe a few players who you believe are kind of stepping up, filling that leadership void, vacated by some of your seniors that have moved on?
Yeah, we had a bunch of fourth, fifth, and sixth-year guys that finished last year. And we had an incredible year last year, but one of our main players got hurt early in the season. That was Andre Henry. And we're going to have Andre back for a sixth year this year. And that's an incredible thing for us to have a player like him with his natural leadership qualities in a position to lead a group of guys, where he's the most veteran voice. He was a defensive player of the year in our league the year before last. I thought last year would be a breakout year for him. But unfortunately, he tore his ACL early in the season. What that means is we're going to have him back. Was able to get another redshirt year, and we're going to have him back. I'm really looking for a big year from him. We've got multiple players that I know I can count on. We brought Darren Saran back as a transfer from Stanford. He was outstanding for us as a freshman. One of his roommates when he was a freshman was Jurian Dixon.
Yeah.
And Jurian last year won the freshman of the year in our league. So there's a chemistry between those two guys. I know they fit really well together and they fit really well with Andre. So that gives me some hope that we can have an outstanding perimeter group. I recruited a freshman from New Zealand, um, named Tom Isaac, who was all tournament team in the World Cup under 19. So I think that he's an undervalued prospect in some ways that we're adding. But we've got Torian Lee back too. Torian Lee was one of our best 3-point shooters last year, and I think he's going to take a big jump in his sophomore season. So I've got a lot of guys, I think, on the perimeter. They're going to make us really strong. I've left out a few even, and just making that short list. My interior is going to be different this year because I had two guys in Bet Lloydston and Devin Tillis who were outstanding guys, um, who've moved on. We're going to be less experienced than those guys, but and different than those guys in some ways. But I'm excited about the talent and energy I've got from my interior guys. And those guys I'm referring to are Kyle Evans, who had a great season for us last year in a backup center role after transferring from Colorado State. And I've got a kid named Eli Chol who hadn't been seen that much, but he's nearly 7 feet. He's real skinny. When people see him, they're going to think about Chet Holmgren and Webb Bayana, these guys who are long and thin and unusual. He's that type of guy. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And then I also added a transfer from Colorado named Harrison Carrington, who I think he played minutes in Big 12 games over and over again last year. I think he's going to add a lot to our team. So we've got a bunch of guys that I think are hungry for the opportunity to play at a high level, like teams here have consistently done.
One point worth noting, I don't think I have a follow-up question with this, but Coach, 12 of the last 14 years, your teams that you've coached have beat Ken Palm expectations. For what that's worth. I mean, for a lot of media members, that is like a measuring stick in terms of how successful the coach is. I mean,
Nah,
that's impressive in itself. Again, I don't really have a follow-up question to that, but I definitely thought it was something worth mentioning.
well, I
Just to
saw
speak
that.
to your pedigree.
I've seen that, and I was curious about it. The 2 years we did not beat the expectations, were unusual years. One was a COVID year where we had to take a month off in the middle of the season, and the other was a year that our top player was injured most of the year. I was curious to think about that stat. I think that a lot of what it means is that the recruits that we have are undervalued because I think those algorithms come up with some of the projections based on what they expect the players you bring into the program to be. And what we need to do is fit them together well, get them to play really well as a team, and hopefully perform better than expectations. I do like the fact that those numbers are available, and I do like the fact that I can be challenged to do that again this year with a team that I think is going to have a good early season rating that will be hard to beat.
Okay.
If we're gonna make it 13 times out of the last 15 years of exceeding preseason Ken Palm expectations, is there any one reason why you think your team will exceed those expectations for you?
Well, I know that to do it, you got to win road games, and that's some of how the analytics stuff works. Winning on the road is something that we work really hard to do because we end up always playing a lot of road games. And I do think we're a difficult road opponent for some teams because we travel intelligently. I think we make a lot of good decisions. That are related to the time that I spent working in the NBA. I know how to travel a team well, I think. And then, to win on the road, we always say defense travels, rebounding travels. Shooting may not travel, and you've got to really have a thick skin and a toughness to endure some of what you face from road opponents. But there's often a lot of energy in that. This place is not easy academically. It's hard for us to travel the amount that we do. But if we can win some road games, that'll be how we can, I guess, perform better than what those analytics expectations would be.
Terrific.
Conrad, does that prompt any follow-up?
No. I think I think, Coach, the outlook of your team. I mean, I the mix of backcourt, front court dynamic. I think it's set up where, yeah, I really see a more balanced. This is just my opinion. I'm just saying I see a very much balanced team coming into this year.
Well, we're always a little bit of that. What I think we are is we're going to be a team that's athletic, that's got plus defenders at a lot of spots. Um, I think we're going to be deep. We're going to need to make 3-point shots. We're not going to be as much of a post-up team, as we have been in the last couple years. But I'm excited about the mix of guys that we've got. I do think there's versatility in this squad, and I'm excited about the offensive potential um, of this group because, like you said, we got a lot of guys who can put the ball in the hole. And we got a lot of guys who can pass.
Okay. Well, I think this concludes this coaching rendition of both the One and Done and Center Hub feed YouTube channel. Again, go purchase our college basketball preseason publication. We're previewing all 365 Division One teams, having exclusive interviews with a whole bunch of coaches. This is one that you guys get the pleasure of seeing on YouTube beforehand. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to sit, talk hoops with us, talk about, some of your coaching philosophy and giving us some good insight. So we appreciate it. And otherwise, we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thanks, Steve and Conrad. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks a lot. Good luck this year, Coach.
Yeah, thanks.